So let me ask you this. As far as what's considered the damn it, so it doesn't matter if, let me ask you this, does it matter that the x can represent the length, the x can represent the width, the y can represent the height, length, or width, the z can represent the height, length, or width. It doesn't matter what the z represents. So let's say I have a brick. I can have the brick standing up. Standard US brick is like 7 inches, 8 inches or something. I think 8 inches by 2 inches by 4, I think. I don't know. But I can have the 8 inches standing up, the 2 inches, have it 2 inches wide, and then have it 1 inch in length. I can have it that way, or I can have the 8 inches. I can have it 8 inches this way and 2 inches this way and 1 inch this way, or I can have it 8 inches this way, 2 inches this way, and 4 inches this way. I mean, 8, 2, and 4. So it doesn't matter why I have the 8 inches facing. So the 8 inch brick could be fixed standing up. The 8 inch brick could be laying down, going long ways this way, or the 8 inch brick could be laying down, going long ways this way. It doesn't matter if I got the 8 inches standing up and the 2 inches going back and the 4 inches going out. I can have the 8 inches laying down, the 4 inches going up right here, and the 2 inches going out. It doesn't matter how I lay the brick, because the height is still going to be the same, right? If I have all those bricks, but I have 100, I have a million bricks laying down in either direction, the height is still going to be the same, right? Because the volume is the same. So I'm assuming, because the volume is going to be constrained in a, let's say, a 200 by 200 or a 100 by 100. But let's say, for sake of this argument, I can make it, if it's 200 by 200 and I put a million bricks, it doesn't matter how the bricks are laying, the height is still going to be the same. That's what I'm assuming. That's what I'm assuming, right? So to answer that question, that's question one. Does it matter that I have like the bricks, that the bricks are going to be Y standing? The bricks can be Y. The bricks can be it can be standing Y at 8 inches. It can be 8 inches going X, 8 inches going Z. So it could be 8 inches here, 2 inches there, 4 inches there. Like I said before, that wouldn't matter, because it's going to fill up the same volume in a 200 by 200 space, and that means the height is always going to be the same as long as you have the same metric. As long as it's 2 by 4 by 8, as long as it's 2 by 4 by 8, the height is going to be the same, because it's constrained in a 200 by 200 space. It's constrained by the base. So I want you to answer that, because that's what I was kind of getting at when I was saying I wanted you to tell me what represented what. I was saying, I want the inputs. I want it to be a Y input, and whenever I put it the Y input, that's always going to be the height of. That's always going to. So I can know where it's standing up at, where the 8 inches is standing up at, versus having the 8 inches be this. I was assuming, because it's not a squared, a brick is not squared, it's a rectangle, that I thought that the height was going to be affected by whether I had the height at the Y, or I had the 8 inches at the Y, or I had the 8 inches at the Z. I thought that was going to be affected. So answer that. And then the second thing, though, I do feel that the height will be affected. Let's say I have this at a 100. I have this at 100 foot, but I have this at 200 foot. So I make this, that's 100 by 100. But let's say I have this at a 100 foot, and then I have this at a 200 foot. Now I'm assuming the height will be affected if I change this. Like if I have 8 inches here, the brick laying down at 8 inches, 2 inches, 4 inches, versus having the brick laying down at 8 inches, 2 inches, 4 inches. I'm assuming, because it's not squared, and the volume is going to be the same, but the height is not going to be the same, because the rectangle, the base is not the same. So I'm assuming that if I change, the base at 100 foot by 200 foot versus, let's say, 200 foot, and I'm using this as an example of your a visualization of your formula. So if I have the brick at 200 by 200, that's fine, but I have it at 100 by 200, the height is going to be off or dependent on whether I have the 8 inches facing at the y-axis or I have the 8 inches at the z-axis. So if I have the 8 inches here, if I have it one brick at 8 inches by 2 inches by 4 inches at, you know, the base, which is 100 by 200, the height is going to be different than, let's say I have the brick facing 8 inches 2 inches by 4 inches. The heights, those two heights are going to be different if the base is 100 by 200. But if the base is 200 by 200, I'm assuming it shouldn't matter where I put the height at of the 8 inches. Like I stated before, it doesn't matter how I lay the brick. It could be 8 inches right here, 2 inches and 4 inches, or 8 inches, 4 inches and 2 inches. It doesn't matter because it shouldn't matter. I'm assuming. I'm asking you, does it matter? I'm not telling you it doesn't matter. I'm asking you, it shouldn't matter, right? Because the base is always 200 by 200, which is going to make the volume the same, no matter how I lay it around. As long as I have a million bricks or whatever bricks I have, how many bricks I have, the height is going to be the same no matter how I lay the brick in a 200 by 200 or 400 by 400 or 20 by 20 space. It doesn't matter as long. Well, let's just use 200 to not confuse. If this is a 200 by 200 face, as long as it's squared, it's squared. The height shouldn't matter in that squared. The 8 shouldn't matter wherever I put the 8. The 8 inches at, that shouldn't matter as long as this is squared, and that's going to keep the height the same no matter where I lay it down or stand it up, because the volume is always going to be the same. It's going to take up the same space, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So that's what I was kind of getting at. I want you to answer those 2 questions, and yeah, that should be it. I don't know, I hope I didn't confuse you, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.